She texted me at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Not a call, a text, which meant she'd rehearsed it. I need a favor. It's insane. You can say no. I typed back, "What is it?" She didn't answer for 4 minutes. I watched the 3 dots appear and disappear twice before the message finally came through. My ex is going to be at Carla's wedding Saturday. He told her new boyfriend I was unstable. I need you to come as my boyfriend, just for the night. I'll pay for your dry cleaning. I stared at my phone. Maya Chen had been my neighbor for 2 years, my friend for 1, and the person I thought about more than I was willing to admit for approximately 6 months. She lived in 4B. I lived in 4C. The walls were thin enough that I knew she listened to Joni Mitchell when she was sad and the weekend when she was cleaning. I typed back, "Keep the dry cleaning money. I'll be there." She sent 3 question marks. Then, just like that. Just like that. What I did not tell her, I already owned a suit that fit. I already knew her ex's name was Daniel. I already knew he'd cheated, that she'd found out at Christmas, that she'd cried so hard she gave herself a migraine that lasted 3 days. I knew because walls are thin and grief is loud, and I had stood on my side of the drywall at 2 in the morning, wanting to knock and not knowing what I'd say if she answered. She didn't ask why I said yes so quickly. I was grateful for that. Saturday came. She knocked on my door at 5:15, 45 minutes before we needed to leave, which meant she was nervous. She was wearing a green dress the color of something expensive, her hair up in a way that looked effortless and absolutely was not. I opened the door, and she looked at me for 1 second too long before she said anything. "You look good," she said, like she was surprised. "You look terrified," I said. She laughed, and the terrified part softened a little. "He's going to be there with someone," Carla told me. "Some woman from his firm." Okay. Okay, that's it? What do you want me to say?" She twisted the strap of her clutch. "I want you to say you'll hold my hand during cocktail hour and laugh at things I say, even if they're not funny, and not let go if he tries to talk to me." "Done," I said. "And for the record, your things are usually funny." She looked at me again with that same half-second extra. "You're being very calm about this. One of us has to be." We took the elevator down together, and she was quiet the whole ride, watching the numbers drop. In the lobby, she reached over and took my hand. A test run, her fingers fitting into mine in the specific way that made me feel like I'd been waiting for exactly that, without knowing the shape of what I was waiting for. "Practice," she said, without looking at me. "Sure," I said. Neither of us let go until we reached the car. The wedding was at a vineyard 40 minutes north of the city. String lights in the trees, white chairs on a lawn that looked like someone had ironed it. The kind of event that costs as much as a car and is over in 4 hours. We drove with the windows cracked, and she told me Daniel's colleague's name was Priya, and she was a corporate litigator and had legs like a Sports Illustrated feature. "I'm sure she's insufferable," I said. "She probably isn't. That would be easier." "You could be insufferable." "Thank you. That's genuinely comforting." She laughed again, the real one this time, the one that went slightly too loud and made her cover her mouth. I kept my eyes on the road. I did not say what I was thinking. There is an entire category of things I had gotten very good at not saying. We found our seats. The ceremony was short and honest, and made 3 people in the 3rd row cry, including a man in his 60s who didn't bother hiding it. Maya leaned against my shoulder during the vows. I told myself it was performance. Her hand was in mine again by the end, and I stopped telling myself anything. He found us during cocktail hour. I knew it was him before she tensed, because I felt her tense. A specific tightening of her grip, a half step back, the way a body registers a threat before the brain has processed it. Daniel was good-looking in the way men are good-looking when they know it. Jaw, height, a linen blazer that fit like he'd been born in it. He walked over with the woman I assumed was Priya at his side, and his face arranged itself into the expression people make when they're pretending to be happy about something. Maya. He kissed her cheek. She let him. This is Priya. Hi, Maya said. Her voice was completely even. I had not expected that. This is James. Daniel looked at me the way men look at each other when they're doing math. How long have you two been together? I put my hand on Maya's back, right at the base of her spine, and felt her exhale. Long enough, I said. He's being modest, Maya said, leaning into me slightly. We met 2 years ago. Took us a while to figure out what we were. Neighbors, Daniel said, with a specific tone. Among other things, I said. Priya, to her credit, looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. She made a polite sound, touched Daniel's arm, and steered him gently toward the bar with the grace of someone who had done this before. Daniel went, but he looked back once. I watched him do it. Maya turned her face up toward me. Close, because we've been standing close the whole time. Her voice was low, and only for me. That was perfect. I know, I said. Don't be smug. I'm a little smug. She smiled, and then she did something I hadn't prepared for. She reached up and straightened my lapel, slowly, her fingers resting there for a moment after she'd finished adjusting it. Like she forgot to take her hand back. I keep waiting for it to feel fake, she said quietly. I looked at her. Does it? She didn't answer. She looked at the place where her hand was still resting on my chest, and then she looked up at me, and then she stepped back just slightly and said, We should find our table. Sure, I said. But she didn't let go of my hand. Dinner was salmon or chicken, and both were fine, and neither of us ate much of either. We were seated next to a couple who'd been married 11 years and spent most of dinner finishing each other's sentences and touching each other's hands without noticing they were doing it. I watched Maya watch them. What? I said when I caught her. Nothing. She speared a piece of asparagus. I just think it's nice, when it's easy. When what is? The wanting someone. She said it simply, not dramatically. When it just settles in and becomes the thing that's true about you, instead of the thing you're arguing with. I set down my fork. What are you arguing with? She looked at me. The string lights were doing something to the way her eyes looked, or maybe they weren't. James. Yeah. You're doing the thing. What thing? The thing where you ask the question you already know the answer to. I was quiet. The couple beside us laughed at something. The best man was giving a toast. Someone's child was stealing rolls from the bread basket 3 tables over, and a parent was pretending not to notice. Tell me anyway, I said. She picked up her wine, put it down without drinking. Carla asked me last month why we weren't together. You and me. I told her we were just friends, and she looked at me exactly the way you're looking at me right now. How am I looking at you? Like you're patient, she said. Like you've been waiting. I had been. I had been waiting so long it had started to feel like a personality trait, like something structural about who I was. I looked at her across the table with the string lights in the trees and the honest vows still somewhere in the air. And I thought, say the true thing. For once, just say it. I wasn't pretending, I said. Tonight. None of it. She was very still. I know. I've been your neighbor for 2 years, and I think about you in the morning before I think about anything else. And I stand in my kitchen sometimes and listen for you through the wall, and I know that's possibly insane, but I do the same thing, she said. I stopped. I listen for your alarm, she said. 6:43. I know when you make coffee because your grinder is loud. I know when you're having a bad day because you play the same Springsteen song 4 times. She was looking at the table now. I have been so careful, because I thought if I got this wrong, I'd lose the thing that was holding everything else together. You're not going to get it wrong. How do you know? Because you listened for my alarm, I said. That's not something you do for someone you might feel nothing for. She looked up. There was something in her face that was all the things that hadn't been said over 2 years of thin walls and borrowed sugar and late-night texts about nothing in particular. Then she smiled, and it was the kind that starts slow. You're very calm, she said again. I'm not calm at all. I know, she said. I can feel your hand. I looked down. I was holding her hand on the table, and I was definitely not holding it calmly. She looked at me for a long moment. Don't kiss me tonight. My chest did something complicated. Okay. Ask me tomorrow, she said. When we're back home. When it's just the hallway and our doors and none of this. She gestured at the string lights, the vineyard, the borrowed romance of someone else's wedding night. I want to know you do it there. I'll do it there. Promise me. I promise you. She leaned forward then and rested her forehead against mine, briefly, the way people do when words feel too small. Then she pulled back and picked up her wine and said, Okay. Now tell me something embarrassing about you. We're supposed to be people who know each other. You already know the embarrassing things. Tell me one I don't know. I thought about it. I bought the same book 3 times because I kept forgetting I owned it. Same copy, same edition. They're all on my shelf. I've never read it. She started laughing. The real one again, too loud, hand over her mouth. Which book? That's not part of the deal. James. It's not a good book. That's what kills me. It's not even a book I like. I just keep buying it. She laughed until her shoulders shook and someone at an adjacent table looked over and she didn't care. And I thought, this is the thing. Not the vineyard or the dress or the string lights. This exact sound and the way it felt to be the reason for it. Daniel came to find me near the end of the night. Maya was dancing with Carla, and I was at the edge of the patio with a drink I hadn't finished. And he walked over with the particular walk of a man who has decided something. She seems happy, he said. She is. You're good together. He said it like it cost him something. I could tell at cocktail hour, the way she stands when she's with you. He looked at the dance floor. She didn't used to stand like that. I didn't have anything to say to that. I said nothing. I made a mistake, he said. Not to me, exactly. More to the space in front of him. I told myself it was complicated, but it wasn't. It was just a mistake, you know? Yeah, I said. I know. He looked at me then. Something passed across his face that I didn't have a name for. Take care of her. I'm not interested in your permission, I said. Not unkind, just true. He nodded once, like that was the right answer, and walked back inside. I watched him go, and then I looked back at the dance floor where Maya was spinning Carla and getting the steps wrong and laughing about it. And the specific feeling I had in that moment did not have a short word for it. But it was the opposite of pretending. She fell asleep on the drive home, her head against the window, her shoes off, her hand resting on the center console between our seats. I drove with the music low, Joni Mitchell, because I figured she'd want that if she knew. And I kept my eyes on the road and felt the particular rightness of having someone asleep in the passenger seat of your car and knowing you're in no hurry to get there. We got home at 11:30. She woke up slowly in the parking garage, looked around, looked at me. "We're home," I said. She found her shoes, put them on with some effort. We rode the elevator up in comfortable silence, and she leaned against the wall, and I leaned against mine. And at the 4th floor, we both walked out and stood in the hallway between 4B and 4C. She looked at me. "Tomorrow," she said. "Remember what you promised?" "I remember." "Good." She reached over and straightened my lapel again, the same small, unconscious gesture as before. Then she turned and found her keys. "Maya," I said. She looked back. "For what it's worth," I said. It never felt like pretending. Not for a single second of it. She stood in the hallway with her keys in her hand, and she looked at me with 2 years of thin walls and Joni Mitchell at midnight and 3 books I never told her about. And she said, "I know." Then she went inside. And I went inside. And the hallway was just the hallway again. At 7:02 the next morning, I knocked on the door of 4B. She opened it before I finished knocking. She'd been awake, and she was in a sweater and her hair was down, and she looked at me for exactly 1 second before I said, "I'm asking." She smiled, slow and certain, and stepped forward, and the door swung shut behind her. And in the hallway between 4B and 4C, with no string lights and no vineyard and nobody watching, I kissed her. She kissed me back. She kissed me back the way people do when they've been thinking about it for a long time and are no longer willing to wait. When we stopped, she kept her eyes closed for a moment, and then she opened them and looked at me and said, "You're still calm." "I'm not calm at all," I said. "I know," she said. I could tell. We stood in the hallway, and neither of us went anywhere, and the morning light came under the door from the stairwell window, and it was just that. Just 2 people in an ordinary hallway who had been pretending they were only neighbors for so long that the truth of it had built up behind the pretending like water behind a door. And then the door opened, and it wasn't a flood. It was just what it had always been, waiting to be admitted. Have you ever stood on the other side of a wall from the person you wanted most and convinced yourself that staying quiet was the same as being careful? Have you ever realized the one who already knew your alarm, your sad songs, your same book bought 3 times, was waiting on their side of the wall too? Tell me about it. Subscribe so you're here for the next one.